Hello everyone, it is Amanda and I'm here today with my process video of how I started my album for my intentional Christmas e-course that I have on my blog. And I'm using Carrie's kit that I have, a Christmas countdown kit that she also has for sale that is kind of the album of choice for my class to go along with the documentation. So she has lots of great things in her kit, and you can go to my blog and find more about it, and there's a link to it on my sidebar. So all those links will be in the description bar below. But to start off, I had some of this. I think it was Recollections, and it's a really thick um, thick paper. It was a glitter paper. And so her kit comes with two wooden pieces. It's a 4x6 album, and it's a front cover and a back cover. And I played around with painting it and doing some other things, but I really wanted this glittery, it makes me think of snow, and then with the gold thickers that I have for my stash, I decided to just use that for the cover and for the front cover. And then I'm using the wood that came in the kit for my back cover and possibly for a middle insert. I haven't decided yet. But what I'm doing here is I'm just putting my title for the book on the cover, and I would have liked to have had the letters going horizontally, but because it was such a large title for the book, I had to do it diagonally. And actually, by the time I got done with it, I really liked it. And I wanted to have Christmas in all capital letters as kind of a highlighted word, but of course, it's only a 4x6 book, and Christmas is a pretty long word, so the uppercase letters wouldn't work. So I had to put those back on the thicker sheet and go back to doing lowercase, which is fine. I do actually end up putting the word "an" in capital letters, so it kind of broke it up a little bit and gave me some height to the wording as well. So I'm just sticking these on. I did the intentional using my ruler. I do that sometimes whenever, especially if I'm doing something on a slant, to try to make sure that I get them lined up appropriately. And I'm just still playing around getting those letter stickers on. I really like how the gold glitter pops against the white glitter. I just think it's really pretty, very festive. I'm not a huge glitter person, but when I get a chance to use it, like on something like this, I tend to do it a lot. So I've got that and intentional. And you can find out more about my e-course on my blog as well as a video that I posted to my channel a few days ago. And it's basically just a course that I've designed to really get us to thinking about what Christmas is all about. Whether you believe in of course, my view is Christian based because I am, but even if you're not, you're just thinking about every moment of the holiday season instead of being so busy all the time, and just really trying to be intentional about the things that you choose to do the 25 days leading up to Christmas. So I'd really enjoy it, and I'd love it if you would go check it out. I've had several people interested, so I'm hoping it's going to be a fun thing. I wanted the number 25 on there, but I didn't like how it was playing out with those red thickers. So I decided to take it off, and I took it to my sewing machine, and I sewed through the words. One, because I like sewing and I like seeing the texture of the thread on my pages and in my albums. And I goofed up. I had already adhered that pocket page that came in the album. I'm sorry, that came in the kit to the back, and I didn't think about it before I sewed it. But it's such a pretty thing, I'm not going to waste it, and I'm going to try to find a way to incorporate it. But the other reason was because the thickers, although they stuck to the glitter paper, I knew realistically they probably weren't going to stick very long, and so I wanted to make sure that those letters stayed down. Now that little deer die cut comes in the kit. I think it's exclusive just to her kit, so there's that one, which is out of this really pretty sparkly paper, and then there's a red one, and it's also an image that's on her printables and some of the journaling cards and other 4x6 cards that came in the kit. Super cute. I would have loved to have had some, well, I have some stickles, but some red to put on the nose. I think that would have been really cute, just to have that little pop of red. I might still go back in and add an enamel dot or something there. I'm still playing around with trying to figure out if I want that 25 on there, and eventually I just decided I like the simplicity that it is now. And this is just the bare bones. Of course I'll be doing this daily or weekly on weekends as the project and the course plays out over the 25 days. So I was just getting the basic foundation done so that I had something to work with and I wasn't stressing about trying to create something December 1st or the last day of November. One of the elements of her kit that I really liked was this December vellum piece, and I knew that I wanted that to be close to the beginning because it is the month of December. So what I'm looking through now is all of the 4x6 papers that are included in the kit, and there's a ton of them. And I wanted to find one that I could staple that vellum card to where it was a good accent and it was fun, but it didn't contrast too much with the font and the colors on the vellum. And I really liked that green polka dot. So I've got that going on. And then I have the cover that came in the kit because I had already punched the holes in it whenever I thought that I was using it. And so now I'm just using it kind of as a guide, a template to poke my holes. And I'm just using my crocodiles to do that. Now this piece was something that I intentionally chose to do. I don't necessarily love my handwriting, especially whenever it's something like a bold statement like this, but I am trying to be, I hate to keep saying this word, but I am trying to be more intentional about using my handwriting in things, especially big projects like this. I use it all the time in Project Life and in my scrapbooking layouts, but something like this, I tend to want to find something pre-made, but because this is something that's really near and dear to my heart, I wanted to make this cover, and this is the cover page. This is the first thing that you're not the cover page, but the title page that you'll see whenever you open the book for the first time. And I wanted it to be something that I hand wrote because it's a saying that I said the other day that I just really, really liked. And it says, "A life of intention is a life you choose." And that's very true. I mean, we can talk about how busy we are and we can talk about how the holiday season passes us by, but when you really think about it, you can't blame anyone other than yourself for the holiday season and how it transpires in your life, because we are the ones that are making the choices to stay up late at night and do things that maybe are important to us in the moment, but in the grand scheme of life, we could have used that time doing more worthwhile things. And so that's my challenge for myself and for those of you who are taking my course and are interested in taking my course, is to just really ask yourself, is this going to matter? Whenever I look back at my life, and if I was to think about the year 2013 and Christmas, am I going to remember the hours that I spent coordinating my wrapping paper with my bows and my tags, or am I going to remember the moment when my daughter opened up her favorite gift of the year and just the delight on her face, and making those moments more worthwhile? So I hand wrote that and I traced over it. I'm just using a white gel pen, and then I did some faux stitching along the edges. I thought about hand stitching, or not hand stitching it, but machine stitching it, and I don't know. I chose not to. No real reason why. So, and then you'll notice that whenever I pick the paper that it's going to go on the front of, because since it had a white background, I chose to back it with another patterned paper, and that chalkboard paper was just a little bit longer than the other, so I adhere it down, and then I go back and I just trim it with my scissors to make it fit. Now, of course, I will be adding pictures throughout the album, and so towards the end of this video, you'll see that instead of strategically placing each page, I just, because my holes are evenly spaced, it doesn't matter the front or the back which ones I punch, because I can just flip it over whenever I go to actually putting together my album a little bit later and adhering papers and pictures and things to them. So I just kind of went ahead and punched all the holes and got them into the rings, that way that they were ready to go and I can move them around however I choose to later on. And there's so many good papers though. If I had picked out a kit myself, if I had went to a store and grabbed papers and embellishments and things like that for a Christmas album, this is not the colors that I would have chosen. This is not the designs that I would have chosen. But this is so me, like the black and the white and the polka dots. It really helped me to get outside my comfort zone, because if I was doing that, of course, I would have picked the golds and the reds and not so much green, but I really like the coppery colors and stuff for Christmas, and of course red. And so I like that this combines some of the colors that I love, but it throws in really cool pops of colors like the green. So this was just a black and white triangle print, and I have these label stickers that come in the kit. and I decided to put that there and then use that 2 and 5 from the thicker set that I debated on using in the front. And my biggest issue with these particular thickers are that they do not stick very well. Even on my regular scrapbooking layouts, I've had to go through and use, that's just some Tombow Mono glue that I'm using, but I've had to go back and kind of doctor up some of them because they just fall off the page so easily. And so I got that down there. I envision using a photo, like maybe a 2x2 Instagram or something stapled to the side once I get there. And I think about using that feather, but it just doesn't look right. I'm not feeling it. The colors coordinate, but I'm trying to think ahead of also what I'd like to do, and I mess around with that tag too and just kind of lay it out to see if I like it. But whenever I think about how I envision using that page in the coming weeks and throughout the month of December, I just decide that I kind of like it plain. And I'm sorry if you can hear wind outside. I don't know if it's picking it up. It's November 17th, and we are under a tornado watch here in Ohio, so the wind is crazy. I'm not a huge fan of storms. I don't mind storms unless the tornado word is mentioned, and it's only 2 o'clock here, and the tornado watch goes until 8. So it's a little scary, but I'm sure we'll all be okay. So here I am just using that template and punching holes in the cover and in those few papers that I've already got completed, getting them ready to go. And I go ahead and I grab my binder rings and I put them in there. You can see off to the right that deer, the red one. It's so pretty. And there were all different kinds of sequins and jewels and like this glittery, I don't even know what it was, this iridescent white glittery powder stuff. And I use those here in a little bit as an embellishment pocket. But there's just so much fun stuff that comes in the kit. I was so surprised. Looking at the pictures, I knew that it was going to be great, but when I actually got it in the mail and was able to go through it and touch it with my hands, I was just amazed. Here's that back cover, and I painted it white, and then I'm adhering this black and white polka dot paper to the front of it. Punching some holes. But she was very creative, and you know, she does most of the design work herself, and she's just been a pleasure to work with. We've enjoyed talking to each other, and it's kind of neat to make scrappy friends because I don't have any scrappy friends here with me where I am, and the one that I had moved. Very sad about that still. So it's really nice to be able to talk. That's one of the greatest things about this community is that there's so many people who enjoy it and just love scrapping, and you have that common bond already. So I'm going through here, and there are these journaling cards that she included that have the days, and when you purchase the kit, she does send you a file for the printables, and so you can get more printed if you want. And while I may not use every single one of them in the actual album, I definitely will be using them in Project Life. And there's different vellum pieces. She's got some die cuts, like 4x6, where the middle's cut out. And then instead of just, like there's one that's got stars all over it, and instead of keeping the stars or whatever, she sends the stars along in the kit so that you have both the positive and the negative space, which I thought was really cool. And you can just tell a lot of it she's done herself, like painting the clothespins and stamping on the clothespins. She's put a lot of love and effort into it. I think it's pretty cool. Also over to the right, which is what you see me picking up right now. Well, I picked it up and moved it, but she did like custom photo pocket pages type things, and it's 2 small horizontal photos, and then she stitched along the edge to make like a binding for it, kind of, so that you can punch through the paper and stick them in your album. And there were 3 of those, I think, and that was super cool. So this is going to be another page where I put like journaling from the days, because my course comes with actions or steps to be intentional for every single day, and there's either a journaling prompt or a photo prompt or just something tiny that'll only take a few seconds of your day just to document how you've used that day's intentional, what am I trying to say? Like way that I'm challenging you to try to be intentional. Like the first day is to be intentional with your to-do list and really just writing everything down, evaluating it, and then deciding what's important. So I figure that this is one of those places where I'll stick things like that, or maybe a small photo. And I am adhering it down with glue dots because again, that glitter, the tags that she sends, it's that glittery paper, and I just wanted to make sure that it stayed. I wasn't sure that my ATG tape runner was going to hold, so just in case. And now that I'm watching this, I wish that I would have stuck one of those doilies that you can see maybe behind it, and I can always go back in and redo that possibly, because I really like it. I like doilies, and I think it would add something to that page. I don't know. I think I'm just messing. Oh yeah, I'm opening it back up, and so as I get a page done, I'm just adding it in. And that was the back of an envelope. There are 3 envelopes included in the kit, so that'll be kind of cool. Here's one of those die cuts. It's a sweater weather. It's going to be really cool. I've already got an idea for a photo that I want to take that goes along with one of my prompts that I'm going to use for that. And I think what I'm doing off screen now, it's out of frame because I was trying to line papers up. There you go, to get them hole punched, and so I needed them closer to me so that I could make sure they were lined up. And then I'm just using some paper clips from the kit. I am using them as multi-purpose, and I'm using it to hold the papers together while I punch it. And then I will show you why there's that great glittery striped paper. I'm trying to decide if I want to be brave enough and do journaling on that. I haven't figured it out yet, because it could go one of 2 ways. Either really, really good and it would look really cool, or really, really bad and I have wasted a very awesome piece of space, of landscape that I could use. So I'm going to have to meditate on that, decide closer to. So here I'm taking this, those pocket things that I told you about, and I'm just filling it with some of the things that she sent. There's some confetti stars, there's that awesome powdery stuff that I told you about, there's some sequins. I pulled some stuff out from my own stash, and I had that huge snowflake, and I thought that I was going to use it, but it was just too big and bulky, and once I got it in there and was trying to mess around with it, I noticed that the stuff wasn't falling around it like I wanted. But a few months ago in a Studio Calico kit, I think they goofed up and they sent like a whole crazy amount of confetti, like punched out paper pieces. And I remember when I opened my box, I guess the thing had ripped open or something and it was everywhere. So they ended up sending you like a oops, sorry for the mess up kind of gift later. I think it was a stamp set or something like that. But I had it and I just poured it into a bag and I said, well, I'll save this sometime because I've always liked the thought of doing these little pockets full of confetti and small things. This is that white powder that I'm pouring in there now. I don't want to call it powder. I don't know what it is. It's like a glittery thing, but it's so pretty. But anyway, so I grabbed that bag out and decided this is the perfect time. The colors are perfect. It'll add some of those non-traditional Christmas colors that I'm falling in love with using. And so that's what I do, because at this point it was too, I don't want to say bland, but it wasn't colorful enough. So, and that confetti had some stars and, not stars, snowflakes and things like that in it. So I thought, hey, that's perfect. So I just fill it up and then I took it over to my sewing machine and I stitched it down the side with red thread, because that's what was on my sewing machine at that time. Nothing particular, or no special reason really. I am kind of lazy when it comes to that. Whatever's on there is what gets used. Unless it's some of my more expensive thread, and then I do take that off. But I always leave the bobbin the same. And so on that, actually, it turned out kind of cool because the bobbin was white. And it kind of looks like an intermixed red and white thread type thing. So I just add that in there. Just moving along. I've got some, that's kind of a sheen, that taupey color paper. So now you can see I'm flipping through the papers, and at first I was going to try to put them together the way that I thought I would want them in the album, but that's still too far out. Those are actually letters that she painted, and they're gorgeous letter stickers that she painted. I haven't used them yet though. So yeah, I thought that I would go through and strategically place them beforehand, but I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was having a hard time. So instead, I just grab most of the things together and then I go through and um, I start punching the holes in them just so I can get them in the album. And I stick them in. There's a huge big stack of white cardstock that comes in. That's probably going to be some journaling and then also where I do some stamping, or it'll most likely be a backing for some photos. But I think I'll, for some of my larger photos, because I mean, I don't photograph a huge amount of vertical photos, so, or portrait photos, whatever you want to call them. Most of mine are 4x6 horizontal. It's just fine with me. I mean, if you really want to see my album, I don't think you'll mind to flip the book around to look at a photo, but I envision matting a lot of photos back to back and just sticking them in there, punching holes and sticking them in. There's going to be a lot of journaling directly on the photos. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with this mini album because, again, it's all about choosing time wisely too, and I don't want to spend hours doing something that isn't going to be impactful, or it's not going to make the album more meaningful. If it's just something that it might be more meaningful to me, and there are those things that I talk about in my course where it can't all be about what's meaningful to other people, because sometimes what's meaningful to other people is not the same as what's meaningful to you, and we definitely need those moments in our life where we're doing something just for us. Because even though scrapbooking is a hobby, when I think back on it, it's still not always for me. I love looking through the albums and I love seeing other people enjoy my albums, but for the most part, it's just to kind of leave a legacy and to tell stories, to be a storyteller. I take that job very, very seriously. All right, so you can see I've got all the papers in it, and the album's starting to really fill up at this point. Going through and just kind of organizing a little bit, getting my not my barriers, my bearings of where I am and what I have left to work with. My intention was not to complete the album tonight and to have everything ready to go. I've still got, and you'll see at the end whenever I gather everything together, I still have a huge amount of embellishments left and papers left because the kit was huge. I mean, it's definitely well worth the money. She put a lot of hours and a lot of time into it. So, still punching holes, just adding in the rest of the two other um, photo pockets right behind the other one so that I knew where I could find them. I don't know what I'm doing here. I feel bad. No, okay. I goofed up on this. I lined up both my envelopes and I was like, oh, I'll just punch them at the same time. Well, what I forgot to check was the orientation of the envelope and where the flap was. So the clear one turned out fine, but the red one, and you'll notice at the end whenever I flip through, I actually kind of punched holes through the flap. So I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to work around that. And I may just have to forego using it as an envelope and just put some paper on the back and use it as another 4x6. You can see there a little bit, and I realized it, but nothing I can do about it now. So now the things like the die cuts and things that weren't, that I couldn't just decide, I had to decide one side or the other to punch the holes on. I'm just kind of leaving those out. Those are some 3x4 cards, some more. So I didn't want to risk going ahead and punching the holes and then messing up and regretting it later. So I just left those out to the side. I love the Christmas tree. I think it's really cool. There's a couple of them, like the one with the stars, that I'm going to try to figure out a way to use on top of a photo. This tag, I punched a hole in and just stuck it in there. I like having things that dangle in my albums. Then here's a bunch of vellum ones, and again, I just took the plain vellums, not the one like that one on top that has the deer printed on it. I just took the plain ones and punched holes because it's not going to matter. I can just flip it upside down and it'll still fit. So at this point, I'm just setting everything off to the side, looking through some of the other embellishments, trying to decide if there's anything that I want to use right in the moment. And I look at those. There's some wooden frames, and I thought, or I don't even know if they're wooden, but they're frames. And I thought about seeing if I wanted to frame at 25, but I don't know. I haven't quite decided yet. Even looking back at it now, I might go back and do it. It just depends if I find a greater purpose for them later on. There are 3 wooden elements that come in the kit that have chalkboard paint on them. So it comes with a piece of chalk, and at first I thought about writing on it with the chalk, but I kind of want it to be more permanent, I guess. I don't want it to smear off. And I knew that I wanted it to say Merry and Bright. And my initial thought was that I would attach thread to it and hang them off the rings, kind of as like a spine embellishment or something. But because my rings are centered farther down instead of being right at the top and right at the bottom, it just didn't look right. So I went ahead and wrote the Merry and Bright, just kind of doodled it on there. And then I'm going to find some place to include them. So nothing fancy. Takes a little bit of time to go over the handwriting to get it a good white. And then I just doodled this line all the way around. The bright, I went ahead and punched another hole on the left side of that. I want to apologize also for the shadows. The only time I really get to film videos right now is if I happen to get home before, like if it's a day that my husband's picking up the girls and I get out of a meeting or something early and I can get home when there's still a little bit of daylight left. But that's very, very rare. Usually it's late at night, like between 10 and 1. So the shadows are just something I have to deal with. All right, so this is how my album is shaping up. I'm just kind of flipping through it, making sure there's nothing else that I want to add. I grabbed those frames again because I love them and I know I want to use them. And I thought about sticking it right there and just being done, but then that's another one of those things where I want to make sure that I don't regret a choice that I make. So, and here's what I have so far. Nothing too fancy. I really like how it came together. I like some of the elements that I created with the little confetti pocket page, and the rest of it is just straight from the kit, and just I punched holes in it and stuck it in. There's lots of little tabs that, of course, I'm like the tab queen. I stick tabs on everything. If I think it needs an embellishment, just stick a tab. But I like how they look. So there's going to be several of those throughout there, and there they are right there that I'm showing you. And so now I'm just kind of gathering stuff still left that I haven't used, and really everything except for the thickers, that silver white glittery paper at the very beginning. Everything's from the kit, so it's a great kit. It's definitely been worth it, and I really encourage you to go check out my blog and find the link and look her up because it's a great, great, great kit. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys. You can see more on my blog. Bye.